Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Steve Sims, author of Blue Fishin', The Art of Making Things Happen. Steve, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Are you ready to get started?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do it. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
To avoid getting dejected, there are a million people out there waiting to cast shadows and their own opinion on what you've written. But if you've got a message that will resonate with one person, find another it'll resonate with, and then you start building up a tribe. So there's two things. One, don't get down. And two, leak little parts of your book to start building up the euphoria that it's coming.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, you have two ways of doing it. We all know this, that you can either go the self-published route, which won't give you as great a distribution, but will make you more money, or you can go the big published, which gives you this lovely credibility, but not a lot of cash. So the first thing you got to ask yourself is, why do you want to release a book? If it's for money, then don't go for a big firm. If it's credibility and distribution, then you're going to have to put your nose to the grindstone and really try to work those connections in getting into a big publisher like Random House and Simon Schuster, Gallery, those kind of people.
And which route did you go?
I was very fortunate that, because of my Rolodex, I knew people. And so I was introduced to Simon Schuster. I actually had a conversation about doing a book. So we never did the proposal. We never did any of that. So for any of those people out there that keep getting dejected, I'm sure that you can hate me by now, because I didn't actually blood, sweat, and tear as much as many people do, I'm afraid.
So how did that work? You mentioned you had a contact in your Rolodex. So what was the process?
Literally, because of the standard of clients I know and the people that are in my network, I was at an event in New York. Someone mentioned to me about doing a book. I started chatting to them, going, "Oh, that sounds a great idea." Following day, I went and had breakfast with someone, chewed the fat, spoke to them about different things I got up to. A week later, I had an offer from Simon Schuster.
Nice.
Most definitely, that is not the conventional route.
Yeah, that was clearly next level networking, to say the least.
Yeah, but if we can backpedal a little bit, one of my things I said was to build up a tribe and a following. I already have a very large tribe and following from what I do and how I would just talk about and come up with things. So I already had the distribution of my own channel. When a publishing house is looking at you, they are looking at your own distribution, your own following, your own tribe. If you are fresh and you don't have anyone behind you saying good things about you, you're going to have an immense amount of trouble. If you've got some people saying good things about you, then it makes it a lot easier. And in my situation, I had some very good personal friends that are very well known, very famous. It was a lot easier for me because I'd built up that tribe and community and following before the book.
Yeah, and that's one of the keys. That's what a lot of traditional publishers are looking for, is they want to know about your following, because that's going to save them a lot of time, because most traditional publishers, for the most part, they expect you to be doing a lion's share of the marketing. So if you already have that tribe, then you're going to be a much more attractive candidate for them as a prospective client.
Oh, yeah, they're not there to get you famous. They need you famous already. So if you've got a bit of a following, then just put a bit of effort into it, double it up, and then approach. What you'll also need to be aware of is if you don't have a very big following, or you're not focusing on your following, you can kiss your ass goodbye about the chance of getting a decent retainer. The retainer is based on how well you can distribute your material. And if you have a tribe and a following, then you can start getting better retainers. Mine was good. I've got a good retainer.
Yeah, it's like the philosophy you want to have 1,000 Raven fans, and if you have that, you can do anything.
Absolutely.
Well, this is going to transition nicely to our next question, and that is about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
So the first thing I did was I did everything opposite that everyone else did. So I know a lot of people that take over a table in Barnes and Noble and sit there with their bottle of champagne, hoping people would come over and buy an autographed copy. I didn't do that. I went down the influencer route. What I did was I took over a bar. Now, bearing in mind, for anyone that doesn't know me, and I'm not here to pitch it, my whole persona is 240 pound of ugly. You know, I'm a whiskey drinking biker that just happens to be hanging around with Elon Musk and the Pope. So I have this visual look about me, and everyone knows I like bikes and whiskey. So I took over a whiskey bar in Hollywood. I then invited about 40 of my friends, but also I was very careful to make sure that each one of the friends I invited were influencers and had their own network and their own following and their own tribe. I had a great party of which it was photographed, filmed, and then it was probably the next 2 or 3 months I was on every single one of these people's social feed as I dripped out more pictures, video clips, thank yous. So I went down that route. So I jumped into many, many people's sandpit by inviting them to my event. If everyone knows who you are, try and find people that have their own following that don't and get into their sandpit.
So it was OPP, other people promoting you.
At 100%. If you do a good party and all of a sudden you put a picture up, yeah, my buddies like say Jesse Elder, Greg Reed, Cole Hatter, they're now sharing it on their following to people that I don't know.
And then you dripped it out over a few days, is that right, in regards to the content coming out?
I think I dripped it out to probably about 6 weeks.
Wow.
You know, you drip out a few photographs that night, you know, by just like Instagram stories. Then you drip it out a little bit more over the following week. Then you put a page of it on your website. You drip it out again. Then a few weeks later, you do a thank you to everyone that turned up and you name them. So no, this is a good 6-week milk.
And then each one of those people, I mean, they must have thousands of people for each one. So dripping out that content, dripping out the pictures, dripping out the gratitude. I mean, that's just such a great plan.
Well, it's a great plan, but let's be completely blunt about it. It's so simple. And how much do you think it cost me to do that? Nothing. All I had to pay for was the bar tab.
How painful was that?
Well, the funny thing was I actually, again, this is another smart thing to do. If you've got a following and you're going to be bringing presents to it, I spoke to a whiskey provider and I said, you sponsor it. And they actually coughed up $2,000. The bar tab ended up being about $2,400. So for the entire party, I actually only ended up spending about $400. And you're the first person ever to know that.
Well, that is an awesome strategy. I love how you've taken yourself, your image, what you have done, taken this, brought the influencers in, and it's perfect to your brand. A biker who likes whiskey. So I'm sure it was a hell of a party as well.
It was a hell of a party because I wasn't selling anything. It was a celebration of the party. It was a celebration of the book. It was a getting together of friends. So no one felt as though they were being pitched for anything. So it was a very smart thing to do.
So you had it as a party. So was it also a book signing as well, or were you just there just celebrating the book?
No.
That's what I'm wondering.
No, we had about they actually sent me a pile of books. So we had a pile of books behind the bar, and a lot of the people, the photographer had a book in their hand that would give them a book to hold when the picture was taken. But predominantly, well, for a start, not a single book was sold that night. I think a few were taken. I think a couple were taken by the bar staff, but none of them were sold. None of them were signed. It was a party to rejoice. It wasn't a party to market. The days after was where you marketed it.
Got it. I love that philosophy. There's no pitch, there's no pushback. You're just there having a good time and hang out. And by the way, here's a copy of my book. You want to take a picture with it? Cool. Let's just have a good time. That is such a great philosophy.
Yeah, it worked. It worked well.
So what did you call it? You call it a launch party? What did you call it exactly for this big event?
Well, being British, I called it a piss up. And the thing is, literally, I just reached out to a bunch of my people that I knew, and I said, look, we've all seen how it's done. I don't want to do it that way, but I'd love to get together with you, tell great jokes, get drunk on good whiskey in good company. Do you want to come to a good old-fashioned piss up? And everyone was like, yeah, because there was no intimidation. Now, I've been to many book launches, and it's like, oh, it's on this time, from this time to this time. It's smart casual. We had rock music blaring. You know, we just had a bar, endless whiskey. You know, we just made it very, very informal. There were dudes there in shorts and sneakers. There were guys there, and a couple of them turned up in suits because they'd come from meetings. It was just a laugh. And I kept it informal. I also kept it unoffensive and unchallenging. A lot of the time when you go to these book launches, and I know this, when I get invited to a book launch, especially now, they know it's because I've got a following. And I know I'm there because they want to get into my sandpit and they want to position it. And I've been to book launches where the person's chatting to me like I'm their best friend, and then like the following week hasn't returned a call. So I'm aware of what it actually looks like, and how intimidating and how invasive it can be. So make it just a barbecue. Make it, look, the book's out. I'm going to do everything I can push, but today's the day I just celebrate that I'm an author, and I'm going to celebrate it with friends. So come and eat and drink and be merry, and let me say thank you.
Man, I love that philosophy. It's the same view I have. I'm a big karma guy. Goes around, comes around. You do things, you have fun with it. You make things non-pitch, no pressure, and man, it comes back in such a great way. I love this philosophy.
Good. It worked. I tried it. I, funny enough, had a lot of friends of mine going, that ain't going to work, Steve. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. No. Well, they're not saying that now.
I can only imagine, especially dripping out the content for 6 weeks with all these different influencers. You must have over millions of impressions at minimum.
Oh, God, I was everywhere. And the beautiful thing about it is those pictures and those videos, not only do I use them on my website, but now if you Google like one of their names, I may pop up. And so you're a fan of them. Now I'm evergreen because you're like, well, hang on a minute. He was hanging out with this bald, ugly guy at his book launch. If I like him, chances are I'm going to like him.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. You're the first one that's ever really talking about throwing a party for a launch, and I totally plan on taking a page out of your playbook. I love this philosophy.
Oh, dude, there's nothing original about it. Surely when see, this is what annoys me. People overcomplicate stuff, and I don't want to digress. It's your program. But the bottom line of it is, there's many times to promote and market, and there's sometimes to celebrate. When you release a book, I don't know if it's going to be a Wall Street bestseller. I don't know if you're going to buy a beach house with it, but it should be a moment, regardless, at that point of birth, that it's released onto the shelf, that you should celebrate.
Yes.
And if that celebration can help you with your marketing down the line, well, hell, great. But for now, celebrate, enjoy.
Yeah, to quote the great Rick James, enjoy yourself.
Well said, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get to the hard questions. So let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the #1 thing that you learned from it?
Well, I've read many. I really like anything by Jay Abraham. I think the guy's great. Joe Polish did a book on marketing, which I don't believe he's released yet, that was a phenomenal book. But probably the book that had the biggest impact for me was All the Places You Will Go, or will see, which was the Dr. Zeus, and Jay Abraham gave it to me. And he gave it to me because it's a kiddie's book, but when you read it, it basically maps out the life of an entrepreneur, the ups and downs, how things don't work or go. It's a very, very good book for that.
And for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
All right, this is where I get dark. So imagine a 15-year-old East London bricklayer. I'm walking along. Yes, I started working at 15. It was those days. My dad's a big Irish lad, and he's walking down the road with me, smoking, I think, his 200th cigarette that morning. And as he's walking, without even looking at me, without even talking with me, puts his hand on my shoulder and takes his cigarette out of his mouth, and he goes, "Son, no one ever drowned by falling in the water. They drowned by staying there." He put his cigarette back in his mouth and carried on walking. I stopped and I was like, what the hell was that all about? And I had no idea where this had come from. And it stuck with me quite hard. And then it was probably in my 20s when things suddenly started going wrong for me that I realized that I had the choice of getting back up. Most people fall down and stay there and moan and whinge and cry about it. But you do have the choice as to whether or not you get back up and keep going. So that was the single quote that when the times get tough, when the fight's a bit bad, when the punches are flying, that I realized that it's my choice if I want to drown in the water or get back up.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of the main points in the Dark Knight trilogy when they talked about it's not about how many times you fall, it's getting back up and choosing to rise. It's like, why do we fall? So we can get back up again and again and again and again.
Oh, yeah. And there's nothing more empowering than knowing. You know, I remember I used to fight kickboxing. And I think for about the first year, I was pretty good at it. And I remember for about the first 6 to 8 months, I was fighting, terrified of getting a punch in the head. And then I got a punch in the head and I went, you know, that wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Now, granted, I don't want to get punched in the head, but it wasn't like a Hollywood movie where you suddenly get propelled through a window out the back of some ranch. It was real life. And so getting that pain, falling down, and then getting back up, that's where you actually earn your stripes. That's where you earn your empowerment.
Exactly. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for being on the show. We had a great time on this. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So you can go over to the website at stevedsims.com. You can text Ugly Works, which is one word, Ugly Works, to 345345. Or you can just go on Instagram, look up Steve D. Sims. There's only one M, Steve D. Sims. And that's on Facebook, Instagram. I think it's Steve D. Sims 1 on Twitter for some daft reason. But that's where I'll be.
Well, Steve, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.